Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut. And hopefully, you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So, we're going to do just a little stream here because I promised I was going to do a live stream here from the Baseball Hut and talk about what's going on right now at the winter meetings. Um, right now, it's very quiet. The only thing the Mets have done in particular is they signed Carl Edwards Jr. to a minor league deal. I know that's what we were all waiting for. That's what we were all waiting for, folks. Is that then to sign the guy that threw at the last pitch of the 2016 World Series for the Cubs when they finally won. But I'm gonna get set up here a little bit. I'm not gonna be on too long because the dinner time's coming around soon, and of course I'll be back later. So I don't want to like inundate the channel too much and take too much of your time up. But please, of course, if you're coming through for the first time, hit the subscribe button, like the video, like I said, and all the returning people. Hello, hi, how are you? Hello, Theo Isaac. He has 3 words he always writes every day. All the videos. Let's go, Mets. Hello, Stony814. How are you, buddy? And yeah, I mean, we're going to be doing a stream for a little bit, just go over some stuff. It seems like, and I did a video on it before, that Pete Alonso is going to be at the winter meetings tomorrow. He's going to drive down, I guess, to Orlando. He's going to be down there driving to the winter meetings in Orlando, meeting with the teams. Now, so far as we know, he's not going to meet with the Mets right now. We don't know if he's going to meet with the Mets, but he's going to meet with the Red Sox. He's going to meet with the Orioles, and that came down a little while ago. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. I had to get a drink. Get a drink of water here. But yeah, so the Mets, uh, there's no word that the Mets are going to meet with Pete this week. But the word is that he's going to meet with the Red Sox and he's going to meet with the Orioles. We will see where that goes. I am not 100. I don't think I think it's like 50-50 he comes back. I think it's less of a chance this time around than last year. I didn't think the market was going to be that good for him this year. I thought it was going to be a lot less and a lot worse than it was last year. Last year's market was really strong for Pete. But obviously, it's pretty good right now. At least with some of these teams. These teams are in different positions than they were last year. Obviously, Baltimore had a terrible season this past year. They need some power. They need some pitching. They're in on all the pitching. I am a little dismayed, folks. At the word is the Mets don't want to go and give 3 years plus to these pitchers. If the Mets don't do that, they're gonna have the same problems. We're gonna have the same problems here. Stearns is gonna have to go outside of his box at least with one pitcher. He has to. If they were to make a deal with Skubal, they're gonna have to give him a lot of years. So the idea that they don't do that is just it's not thinking forward. It's thinking like you're still in Milwaukee. And I don't want to say that, but but that's how it seems to me. And he can't be in a situation where he's saying to himself, "I'm gonna sign a guy to less than a 3-year deal." Framber Valdez isn't taking 3 years. Ranger Suarez isn't taking 3 years. These are guys that have been pretty durable. They're not doing that. And the market was set last year with Max Fried taking how many years from the Yankees? 8 years, which was ridiculous. These guys are taking massive years. And Stearns is going to have to, hold his nose and do it. or we're going to have the same problems here that we've had with the pitching. You need a solid guy at the top of the rotation. So that I was reading that a lot today, and I was very irritated by that because I don't want to have to go dark HUD. I don't want to be like this. Yeah, I don't want to be the dark HUD where I get nasty and mean and everything else. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. But so Pete's here. He's going to be here tomorrow. I'll have some kind of update tomorrow for you. I am working tomorrow. I wasn't working today, and I'm working most of the week. Be back probably on Friday, but we'll do live streams. I'll do a live stream tomorrow, and hopefully, and have a live stream the next few days, running down what's going on. I guess the draft is tomorrow. The draft lottery is tomorrow. The Mets have a 0.67 chance of having the number one pick next year. I don't think that's happened. They had the 14th worst record. They will be picking 15th. So we'll see how that goes tomorrow. We'll cover that a little bit. That's at 5:30. So we'll see. Probably the White Sox will get the number one pick. 'Cause the White Sox, they need all the help they can get. But Pete now is one of the priorities the Mets have, and a lot of things hinge on him because we have players out here that are just sort of sitting here. And if the Mets wait forever to sign Pete, they could lose out on Bellinger, Tucker, and Schwarber. But I don't want Tucker here. I don't think the value is there for the Mets. He's not a very strong defensive player. He's a good hitter. He's better hitter than Bellinger, but I guess there's a little bit of a sort of what I was reading today and seeing today was that his desire is not as strong for baseball as Bellinger's is. And Bellinger's a leader. I don't think we really know much about the leadership, qualities and character of Tucker. And Schwarber is a leader too. So those two guys, these three guys are going to be sitting there, and their market's kind of separate from Pete's. But in terms of the Mets and really the Red Sox too, is where do the Red Sox go if they lose Pete, or what happens with Baltimore if they lose Pete? It's a domino. So these teams might pivot to Bellinger. They may pivot to Tucker, who I think is going to go to Toronto. He's not the type of guy that wants to be the main guy. So he'll want to be the wingman, and he'll also have George Springer up there with him. So having played together a few years ago with the Astros will help his transition there in Toronto. But Pete's market is a very weird market because he has a very unique skill set, and very few people can do it. And he's not a good defensive player. So you have sort of all this power and all the run production, and the problem is where the Mets go if they lose him, especially from the right side. Left-handed power is easy to find than right-handed power, by the way. So we'll keep that in mind. But again, I'll be back later, probably around 9 o'clock. So I would hope that you come back and hear my monkey crap as opposed to some other monkey crap on the platform. Edwin Diaz. I've not heard much with Edwin. I don't think the Dodgers are in on him so much. Toronto is the big player here because they spent a lot of money. They were so close to winning the World Series, and Jeff Hoffman blew for them. He was the guy that cost them the World Series. Giving up a home run to Miguel Rojas, one of the many Met killers that we've seen out there in baseball, and that guy beat Hoffman. And when I saw Hoffman come out in the ninth inning in Game 7, I was like, he's gonna cough it up, and he certainly did. We've seen for many years with Rojas that he's a Met killer. You don't want him up late in the game, and that's what happened. So they're going to be looking for a closer. Diaz is one guy they're going to be looking at. Robert Suarez, Pete Fairbanks. But if the Blue Jays are serious, they go after Diaz, and Suarez after that. And I would mention Kenley Jansen. Kenley Jansen's out there. Some team, I'll tell you. Can you imagine, folks, if the Mets signed Kenley Jansen at his age? But he's still very effective. Can you imagine the Mets signing him? What the meltdown would be from WFN and from a lot of the sort of Met fans, the anti-Met fans? Oh, my goodness. Let me take a look at Kenley because he's going to go to the Hall of Fame, I would think. Let's take a look. So he had a good year last year. He had an ERA 2.59. That's pretty good for how he's 37 years old. He had 29 saves on a bad team. He had a good year. He's had a good career. He's had an excellent career. He's not nearly as good as when he was younger, when he was with the Dodgers, but he still has had a very good career. Um, can you imagine if the Mets signed Kenley Jansen, and then Stearns having to explain why he did that? Because Jansen's going to go to a team that needs a closer because he wants those saves. He has 476 saves. Can you imagine the meltdowns from people online, the meltdowns from they melt down when people melt down online when they sign just a guy to a minor league deal. I can imagine what people were saying about Carl Edwards Jr. today. Hold on, Adrian. Stony814 says Mets signed Carl Edwards Jr. I don't know how good he is, though. Well, he's been around for a long time. He is a guy that pitched the final game of the 2016 World Series with the Cubs. He drew the last pitch. His ERA over his career is 3.56. I thought it was 3.46. He's a guy in the middle of your bullpen. That's kind of who he is. Let me see. See how many saves he has in his career. He's got 7 saves in his career, but he had the most important save of his life. But he's a guy that's bounced around. He's been all over the place. He's been with a ton of teams. He was a rookie with the Cubs in 2016. So he's a guy that's he had 36 games pitched in when he pitched that final game. It wasn't Chapman. It was Carl Edwards Jr. All people. But last year, let's see what he did last year. He was with 2 teams, the Angels and the Rangers. I don't know if he was hurt. Pitched 4 games. He must have been hurt. He's just a flyer. He's just a guy that you bring into the middle of your bullpen. He gets an invite. It's not gonna make or break your team. I wouldn't get too worked up about it. I'm sure people have gotten worked up about it. I'm sure of it. But he's not somebody to get too crazy about. To be honest with you, one way or the other. If he pitches great, pitches well, great. If he doesn't, ship him out of here. Ship him out of here on a rail. Ron R says I like Bellinger's fit, but I saw it said that his numbers are way better at Yankee Stadium than other. Well, it is for everybody else. Dr. Manhattan, how you doing? 1929. They've been around since the very beginning. Too many Mets fans are using feelings. As a fan, you have to blow up the court to change the culture of the team. Let's go Mets. Absolutely. I know that they weren't trying to look to move Nimmo. It seems that that's more from the Texas Rangers side. But, they sort of initiated the talks. But I had no problem with Nimmo getting moved. I had no problem with Pete not coming back. I have no problem with Diaz not coming back. This team's been together a long time, and you can't keep putting out the same stuff all the time. Sometimes you got to change it. Got to change the personality of this team. This team's got to get more athletic. It's got to get, it's got to change. It's got to change the offense. You can't have the same, because what you're going to get is you're going to get the same result. Can you imagine if Stearns does this? He re-signs Pete, he re-signs Edwin Diaz, and he starts getting pitchers on the fringes. That will not go over well, okay? And they lose out on these 3 big hitters. There will be a meltdown you've not seen, and they don't pick up Skubal or a big pitcher like Valdez. I will not be happy myself, okay? You know what I mean? I have no issue with moving players out of here, but you have to do more than just moving, Brandon Nimmo out of here. Brandon Nimmo is not a problem. It's just maybe it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't work. But just keep that in mind as we going into these meetings. And I expect Jeff McNeil to be gone. He has to go. He has to go. And little Andy Martino last night said, well, he could still be very useful off the bench. No, he has to go. He's part of this core. He has to go. He needs to go more than, say, Kodai Senga. Kodai Senga doesn't necessarily have to go, but Jeff McNeil cannot stay. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And it's interesting that I've been the one talking about Clay Holmes being a bullpen piece and maybe being the closer of the Mets. And now there were talks about this last night. Can you imagine that? The Met fans online would flip out with Clay Holmes being the closer here, or Devin Williams being the closer here, and WFN would have a meltdown too, and that'd be fun to make fun of. Talk about. That'd be a lot of fun to talk about. But Mets have a lot of work here. They need to. They need a left fielder. They need a center fielder. They need a first baseman. Number 1 starter. Number 2 starter. Closer. Other than that, they're great. From Stoney, do you want to see Acuna gone hut? Well, the problem with Luis and Acuna is that he has no power. And it's not that he has no, okay, if he didn't have any home run power, that's fine. But he doesn't have any extra base power. He doesn't hit any doubles. He doesn't hit any triples. With all this speed, he has no ability to hit the ball gap to gap and line to line. He's got nothing. He's a singles hitter, a pure singles hitter. I don't care what the hell he's doing in winter ball. I don't care. That doesn't mean anything because he didn't do that during the season. Okay, and the Mets played him a lot. He's a great defensive player. He's a great base runner. He's great. He runs. He's very fast. He's got all these elite tools, and he can hit. But the one tool that he doesn't have is any kind of. He gets on base fairly well. In fact, his on base percentage is higher than his slugging percentage. How is that possible? That means he doesn't have the ability to hit the ball gap to gap and down the line. He's a singles hitter. That's the one thing that keeps him from being an everyday player is his lack of power. And he should be gone. They must have too much now. They have too much they have too much of a logjam now. That was before they brought in Simeon. That's before they had Simeon. So now you have Simeon playing there pretty much as the everyday second baseman, or at least 120 games there. And you have guys that are not only on the fringes of the major leagues, but you have guys under them like A.J. Ewing and Jet Williams and Jacob Reimer, and of course, and you have Acuna there, and then you have Beatty that plays a second a little bit. You have Mark Vientos. You have all these middle infielders. Who's playing where? Okay? Where are these guys playing? I don't know. So that's why a guy like Acuna is expendable. I could see him getting traded to the White Sox. I could see him getting traded to some bad team. Or the Pirates. And I don't believe for 1 second that the Pirates are going to sign Pete Alonso. If Pete signs with them, then he's a fool. Then nobody's going to give a shit when he hits 500 home runs. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to care. If he stays with the Mets or goes to a big market like Boston, they're going to care if he hits 500. Nobody's going to care, Pete. And if Pete goes there, he's a fool. Yeah, Stoney, there is no room with these middle infielders now. Mets should start moving some of these guys last offseason. And they didn't do that. And I'm not 100%, and I'm certainly not 100% sold on Beatty at third base. Right now, they have nobody ready. They have nobody ready, from the minor leagues that could take over. Reamer is another year away. He's going to be playing probably in AAA next year. A Red Hot Knicks talk. Totally agree about the core being broken up. It's been 5 years with 0 division titles and 2 wildcard appearances. Very knowledgeable baseball, and I'm excited to see how our pitchers look without Hefner there, without Hefner coaching. Hefner was a disaster as a coach. Okay, the Mets were always leading the league in walks, always leading the league in falling behind the count, and unfortunately, he had to go. He was sent off to the Phantom Zone, to the unemployment line, but not for long. Don't worry, he's now in Atlanta, and it'll be interesting to note how he's able to handle them down there in Atlanta. And I don't believe for a second that Atlanta's going to spend a lot of money anyway. We were hearing, they're going to spend $50 million. I believe that when I see it. When they signed Rocio Iglesias to a 1-year deal with not a lot of money, That tells me that that's a bunch of crap. They're one of the cheapest organizations in terms of spending money is the Braves. Blast Radio 60 says, any news? No, other than they signed Carl Edwards Jr. I don't know if you're a relative, but they signed Carl Edwards Jr. You know, a lot of talk about Ketel Marte being traded. Boy, some team better have a strong clubhouse to deal with that goofball. That guy is really strange. He's got some problems, and that the way he acts. Some team better be very strong with him. Better have strong presence in that clubhouse for him. The guy falls apart. You say anything about him in the stands, he falls to pieces. He starts crying. I thought it was terrible when I first heard the story. I was like, what a strange story it was about how he was crying on the field, and I guess it was somebody said something about his mother. It wasn't like his mother had just passed away. His mother passed away like over 5-6 years ago, and I think he was just throwing stuff out there. Just the fans probably just throwing stuff out there to be crazy. But then you heard some other things about Marte's clubhouse presence, not the greatest. Anyway, from Red Hot Knicks Talk. Also, do you think Sean Manaea could be a bullpen piece this season? No, nope. He's not that. I mean, you need. I mean, you signed into a contract to be a starter, and the Mets have to figure him out. But the way he's pitched, this is kind of how he's pitched in his career. The way he pitched last year, and 2024 was an anomaly. That those last 2-3 months he pitched great, but that's not how he's pitched most of his career. That's why I wasn't too sold on him being with the Mets myself. I was shocked when they signed him because I didn't think he was going to be as good as he was. You know what I'm saying? So, no, he's not. He's not going to be in the bullpen. No, not at all. Clay Holmes has a bad chance of being in the bullpen, being the closer than Manaea is to be pitching out of the Mets bullpen. That's for sure. Now, of course, please like this video, and if you're coming through for the first time, get some new people in here. Hope you're subscribed. I've seen your names or faces before. Hit the subscribe button, of course. Yeah, and meanwhile you got Antoine Richardson going to the Braves. Who cares? They made such a big deal out of that guy. The media. Oh, you lost Antoine Richardson. They helped him steal bases. The stealing bases. How many games did that win for the Mets? With all the stolen bases they had, did they actually win any games for the Mets? No. And people got so twisted out of sorts with him. I can't believe they lost him. He was so good. Who cares? Most important thing is driving in runs and scoring runs. It's not about stealing bases. But let me get back to what I was saying. So I would expect that Jeff McNeil will get moved. I'm hearing all teams, Pirates. The Mets might have some competition for Harrison Bader, and that's. It seems that the Royals are very interested in him. And I said that last night during the stream that they would probably be interested in him. Interesting. At some point. But McNeil will be moved. He's got too much value. And I would mention it's been very quiet today. Extremely quiet from the winter meetings. All talk. That's what these meetings have become. All talk. All bullshit, man. It's like no weight to it, no gravitas to it. And I got WFAN here on the side here. I got SNY on here right on the side here. Okay, and they got this dope Joe Beningo on. Guy just does not like David Stearns. Never liked him. I don't know if he's losing money because of David Stearns. I don't know. But anyway. But, yeah, so some of the other names on the market, keep an eye on Merrill Kelly, keep an eye on Zach Gallen, even though Zach Gallen did not go to the Cubs. I have a video on Zach Gallen on the Baseball Head too, which I recorded a little while ago. I haven't had a chance to do the thumbnail. And Bob Nightingale said he was going to sign with the Cubs, and that didn't happen. Typical Nightingale flub, goof. Ranger Suarez, again, he's going to want 6 years. I don't know if the Mets are willing to do that, and he's not a number one starter. He's a number 2 starter, 3 starter, and he's very good in the postseason. And, of course, Tarik Skubal is out there. Here's A Prodigy, who actually works in the Mets farm system. He's now saying expect a trade for a pitcher and a center fielder. Any thoughts on a center fielder? Because when you talk about trades for a pitcher, everyone's going to think Skubal. That's what I'm thinking. Or maybe perhaps Freddie Peralta. I could see that happening. But he's a number 2 starter. That's the one thing I will say, is that he's a number 2 starter. He's not a number 1 starter. That means that I would also say, the Mets could use a free. It's not a free agent too. I could see them doing Freddie Peralta. That's for sure. I don't know who the center fielder would be. I'd be very careful with Jake Myers. I know that SNY's been pushing him hard on their website and on SNY last night. You can't bring him in. You can't hit. The guy can't hit. So while you can release him, you can DFA him. Why make a deal for a guy that you're going to get rid of? Makes no sense. You want him to do something on the field. You want to see him hit. I don't like guys. One thing about defense is I like to see guys that can hit too. It's not all about defense. You gotta have a little punch. Because Freddie Peralta would be a guy to watch. Like I said, I don't think he's a number 1 starter, in my opinion. He's a number 2 starter. In the bullpen, in case Edwin Diaz leaves, the Mets have talked to Robert Suarez and they've talked to Pete Fairbanks. I'd stay away from Fairbanks because of the fact that these players that usually play for the Rays kind of sort of don't do much after they leave the Rays. Although the bullpen pieces, the Mets have gotten a lot of work out of them. Ron R says, we finally got an owner who has money and he hires a GM who wants the penny pinch. I know, that's the problem. It's one thing the first year. The first year was one thing because, the team was like in limbo with some of the players. Pete was going to be a free agent the following year. And they were bad in 2023. They had bad contracts. And they got lucky with some of these guys. Shumanaya, they got very lucky with him. And a lot of the players the Mets that he inherited played well. I mean, some of the big moves that he did make was J.D. Martinez. J.D. Martinez was a player that really helped them, especially during the middle of the season and up until the middle of August. He was terrific. Andrew Freeman. A Project says Andrew Freeman was from the Rays. No, what I mean is players. I don't mean executives. Executives is one thing. I'm more talking about players. Like Chris Archer. Chris Archer was so good with the Rays. Then he went to the Pirates. Nothing. There's absolutely nothing there. Now, of course, please hit the like button if you're coming through. And, of course, subscribe. We'll be back again later tonight, probably 9 o'clock, no matter what. So I came on earlier. I promised to come on earlier and give an update of what's going on. There's not a lot going on. But A Project, who's in the Mets, who's an employee of the Mets, is saying that the Mets are probably going to make a trade for a pitcher and a center fielder. Be interesting to see who they get. Guys that are going to be available with the Mets is Jonah Tom's going to be available. The Mets, if they make a big trade, he's going to be part of that. Brandon Sprout's going to be part of that. Jet Williams is going to be part of that. Those 3 guys will be part of any kind of big trade for a pitcher, in my opinion. Somebody text me. Who the hell is this? Oh, Facebook. I'm also on Facebook. Haven't done a lot of work on there. Been very busy here. So, Jonah Tom, Brandon Sprout, Jet Williams, I would think that Ryan Clifford will be guys that will be available. Really, only 2 guys from the Mets farm system are not going to be available, I think. We know who they are, Nolan McLean and Carson Bench. And as you know, they both come from Oklahoma. They played at Oklahoma State for the past few years. And they were two-way players where they were position players and pitchers. So, those 2 guys that aren't going anywhere. But the rest of the Mets farm system could be moved. I've been wanting to do a video on the Mets top 30 prospects that SNY put out. But I was sick, as you know. I had laryngitis really bad for 2 weeks. And now what the winter means, I can't really do it because what if the Mets move some of these guys? And I'm kind of thinking about abandoning the prospect talk because It's just too much. And I'm doing so well in the baseball at 3. It just makes more sense to do more bigger stuff there. But at some point I'll do a prospect video, recorded one on the stream on StreamYard, and have it for you to watch. So that I'll have that. I'm gonna have it. But I'm probably gonna do that so I can make some money on there, a lot more money than I would on the prospect hut. But just so you know, um, but the Mets have plenty of prospects to move. Mets need a number one starter badly. They need that. I mean, you trade for a number one starter. You sign a guy that could be a number two starter here, and call it an off season. And then the bat. Aside from Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz, and probably a left fielder. A Project says one thing I've noticed is that Sprout and McLean are not phased, and they are men. Tong is a great person, but he's a boy pitching. He doesn't have the killer mentality that the other two. I agree with you. I saw the immaturity in his first game. He's very immature. He needs a lot of He has to grow up. Getting kicked around was not the worst thing that could happen to him when he came up here. He has good stuff, but he has a track record in the minor leagues of struggling to throw strikes. But this past year was pretty easy for him. So him getting kicked in the ass is not a bad thing. But I thought it was unfair for the Mets to put him in that position. But if you watched him in his first game with his mother in the stands, you could tell he's a mama's boy. Not that that's a bad thing, but you could tell that's kind of holding him back a little bit. That's holding him back. A Project says that's from seeing them inside the clubhouse. Right. I didn't need to see it because first of all, Sproat and with McLean, they pitched in big games. They pitched in college. I think Sproat pitched against Paul Skeens in his last year. They were drafted in the same draft. Was Sproat the second time by the Mets in the second round. So they pitched against each other. So he's pitched in big games. I think he pitched in the College World Series for Florida that year. So he's had big moments. And McLean has been a reliever in college, and he was a third baseman. He's played in big games. So those guys have a lot of experience. Jonah Tong does not have a lot of experience, and he's coming from Canada. How much pressure-filled games are in Canada in high school? Very few, And he's had very little pressure in the minor leagues. He got off to a horrible start in the minor leagues, constantly walking batters. I've been following him for many years. Okay, that's why I'm very surprised at his development. And that's due to the Mets pitching lab. That he is a win for the Mets pitching lab and player development. Guys that have the developmental system with the Mets can really put their hats on this hook of Jonah Tong and say, we developed this kid, and he's an excellent prospect, but he has a lot of growing up to do. He really does, and I didn't need to be told that. But hey, Prodigy sees these guys in the clubhouse, and he's telling you here now that he needs to, basically grow up. But Jed Williams is a guy, he didn't have a place to play. Where's he going to play next year? He's not really a center fielder. I mean, that was a place they were going to play him, but now where's he going to play? He's vertically challenged, as you know. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's the Mets' best prospect. He has power. Okay? The thing that might hold him back is his defensive abilities. Other than that, he's very good. Has good speed, although he didn't steal a lot of bases this year. He has in the past. Great eye at the plate. Ryan Clifford is a year away from the major leagues. He's not going to be ready this year. Okay? This is a kid that strikes out a lot. He gets on base, but he has sort of these, moments where, he strikes out a lot, takes too many pitches. He has tremendous power. He has probably the most power in the Mets farm system. But, he's not close to being ready. It's going to take him a long time to develop in AAA. And that's not an easy place to hit, especially down here. May Project Jet can play center field. He makes adjustments. I wouldn't throw that out off the table. Okay. But, if you bring in a guy that's a veteran player like Simeon, Well, like I said, he's going to play 120, 150 games. It makes it very difficult for Jet Williams, who's on the verge of the major leagues, and he's not, he's not here, and he's had injuries, and especially to that wrist. But yeah, so these are the kinds of things we have to sort of look at over the next few days, is where the Mets are going to go here, because obviously they have a lot of talent in the minor leagues, they have the best farm system in the game, but um, Red Hot Knicks Talk says thoughts on AJ Yoon. He constantly fills up the scorecard every game. Well, he is a guy that they drafted him in 22, 23, 2023, I think. And he's a Billy Epler guy. They drafted him as a shortstop, and they put him in center field. He's become more of a center fielder, outfielder type, and he doesn't have a lot of power, but he led the Mets. I guess the Mets farm system stolen bases. He actually met the Mets organization in stolen bases. He had more stolen bases than Juan Soto. You imagine Juan Soto led the league in stolen bases this year with Ellie De La Cruz, 38. It's crazy. A Project says AJ is very athletic and can play anywhere. Oh, great. But the one thing he doesn't have a lot of power, but he does have triple power, doubles power. He's probably a guy that could project as from the things I read right now, probably a leadoff hitter against right-handed hitters, right-handed pitchers, and be sort of a fourth outfielder, probably. Um, the Mets' top prospect, as an outfielder is obviously Bench. That's the top prospect the Mets have in their farm system as an outfielder. That's the one thing the Mets don't have a lot of, is a lot of depth in their outfield. Most of the Mets depth is in the infield and behind the plate. And now the pitching's coming around. But there's not a lot of depth there with the outfield. That's why they put AJ Yoon in the outfield, to see how he would take to it. And there are other guys that are sort of contemporaries, guys that they drafted along with him that are struggling, like Boston Barrel struggled, but A Project says more Beetle is good too. I think that he's going to be very interesting to watch. Is he on the 40-man roster? They put him on the 40-man. Let me take a look. They put him on the 40-man, didn't they? I believe they did this offseason. Let me take a look. Now, of course, please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's see. See if they put him on the 40-man. This is Nick Morabito. I think they did. Morabito is a winning player, I guess, as it means, and can hit good pitch. Okay, good. Let's see. Yeah, Morabito, they put him on the 40-man roster, so because they didn't want to lose him. He had a big year. He had a ton of stolen bases, and he'll be a fourth outfielder with the Mets or on any team. That's a guy that has value. Certainly does have a lot of value. We can run down the Mets 40-man roster a little bit, just part of the position players. G.Y. Bay, they brought him in. I don't know what that's all about. Nick Morabito, Juan Soto, Tyrone Taylor, Jarrett Young. That is not great. they need a legit guy. Right, red hot Knicks fans, Knicks talk. Also, Mets fans should know there is more arms in the farm system on the way with Watson, RJ, Jack, and Santucci. Mets have a very good farm system. They have some pitching, guys that have really developed in a big way. And Watson's the guy to keep an eye on, and so is Santucci. Let me take a quick peek. Yeah, Watson's going to be good. Jack Winninger, that's the Jack you described. Santucci, these are the guys in the middle here. It's interesting that Jonathan Pintaro has jumped on this list. Let's see who else. Keep an eye on Dylan Ross. The Mets brought him up as the bullpen arm at the end, but it was very unfair that they had him play, be on the roster for 3 games at the end of the season. Zach Thornton, he's probably the number 2 Mets lefty in the system. Keep an eye on him. RJ Gordon. I don't know enough about RJ Gordon. What's RJ talking about? Um, but yeah, we'll see how Santucci is. He's a lefty that they drafted 2024 from Duke, and he might be not too far behind. He might be a guy we'll be talking a lot about this spring and probably during the summer. Just due to the fact he has experience, and he's 25. So he's now 25. He's not going to be down that minor leagues too much longer. Oh, excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong player. Sorry. Let me see. Hold on a second. Where the hell is this guy? Let's take a look. Excuse me. Santucci is 22 years old, but he has experience playing pitching and at Duke. RJ Gordon has a digestive problem. We don't even know about that. That's a lot of information. That's a lot of information for me. But we'll see how Santucci is. Second round pick in 2024, pitched for Duke, but he's had to deal with arm injuries since he's been pitching in college and whatnot. Let's see. Now, please, of course, like this video and subscribe. Again, I'll be back in a little bit. Actually, been pretty quiet. Thought we'd have some movement here while I'm sitting here. Not at the moment. Now I'm going to end the live stream in a few minutes, but if there's a trade, I'll do a regular video and then I'll come back later at 9. That's the one thing I'm going to be doing. That I think is I'll come back later at 9 o'clock and we'll talk about the Mets and where they're at. But if there's a trade or any kind of sign between now and 9 o'clock, I'll be back with a video, just a regular video. So I'm going to end the live stream now. I want to thank everybody that's come in, all the great chats, all the great comments, and of course, this is the Baseball Hut, and we'll be back momentarily before you know it. I'll have videos going up very soon on the Baseball Hut 2. I'll be doing a video on the Baseball Hut 3 about WFAN, and talking about the Insane Asylum there. That channel's done unbelievable since we've been doing it, since I've been doing it, and with your help, it has exploded the way I want. I didn't think it would be like that, but thank you for watching this live stream. We'll be back in a little while talking about our favorite team, America's team, the Mets. And of course, thank you, and I'll see you later.